It was 3 years ago, and I asked myself the question, as pastor, what do I want? The reason why I asked that question is because definition brings clarity. And I knew that however I answered that question would determine my decisions. Here's the conclusion to that question. I want to pastor a church that makes life better. The next question was, how do we make people's lives better? The answer is one word: discipleship. Hello, my name is Donnie Willis, pastor of Westchester Church in Valhalla, New York. Or you may have heard me been called Butterman.
We're buttering you up! Burning your turkey! Burning your ham!
But that's another story we can spread another day. Maybe at Thanksgiving. Anyways, welcome to this General Conference digital workshop on leveraging technology to grow disciples. We are going to be taking personal inventory to see how we can leverage what we have to benefit God's kingdom. Now for me, and maybe you too, when I thought about discipleship, I thought home Bible studies or discipleship courses before after church. That was our path. And if I'm honest, times were very good and they were getting better. But then COVID-19 happened. And we, like you, had to reimagine the way and the tools that we use to grow disciples. We faced a new reality. Face-to-face discipleship was no longer an option, and for us, 25% of our church lived in the first super spreader area for the coronavirus. What was working so well was no longer an option. Everything in our game plan was now irrelevant, and we had to make a very hard, unconventional choice. But our choice remained objective focused. You see, pre-COVID, our church was built on relationships and around dinner tables. Now, the greatest tool we possessed was technology. We had to reimagine discipleship through a whole new medium. A friend told me once, in order to succeed, you need three things. You need time, money, and knowledge. You often have two, but you rarely have all three. Now, you may feel the same way. Bible studies, teaching in-person courses, got it covered. But technology, no way. My goal over the next few moments is to be able to give you some practical tips and leveraging technology to reimagine discipleship. Let's look at technology from the 30,000-foot view. Technology is a very powerful tool. It helps us get more done. It helps us communicate faster. It gives us a world of options right at our fingertips. But you may be thinking, I'm not a tech person. And the idea of putting my thoughts online is quite frightening, very uncomfortable, and can cause anxiety. Yet, in the back of your mind, you know that technology, when leveraged properly, can be used for the greater good. So what do we do? Here's what we do. We take a deep breath and we lean in, because ultimately it can increase our discipleship making abilities. Now you might be asking, what does this look like in real time? Here's an example for you. Here in the New York Metroplex, a man can jump on a train early in the morning and not get home till really late. And the idea of him making it to a brick and mortar building for a midweek discipleship class, completely unrealistic. But we know that he still needs to be discipled. Or maybe there's an elderly couple in your church who love church and they never miss church, but now they find themselves quarantined in their home. There's a need for discipleship and a need for health and safety. So what do they do? What do we do? This is the moment where the local church must remain objective focused, yet experience a strategy shift. There are moments when the local church can leverage technology for the greater good, and these are those moments. Now, when it comes to leveraging technology, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Every leader is different, resources are different, churches are different. So you'll have to find your voice and your online identity. Now, that being said, here are some nuts and bolt questions that we can all pursue. The first is regarding platform. What platform do you want to publish your content on? Now, this is important. Did you know that between 85 to 90% of all content consumed on the internet is through video? People are not reading blogs anymore. They're watching. So the question is, what are you giving your church to watch? Now, in full transparency, pre-COVID, speaking on the camera gave me anxiety. Doing this right here was just not an option. But I had to come to the realization that that is where the audience was. And so that's where I had to share my voice. There's many platforms to communicate your message. Platforms such as Facebook or Instagram, YouTube or Vimeo. So you need to ask yourself, what do I want to create? See, at the beginning of COVID, I began to brainstorm how to stay connected with our church. So what we created was video devotionals. Every morning at 9 a.m., our church receives a text message with a daily devotional in it. We send it out using a free app called Remind. It's a text message. Our church does not have to download anything. For them, it's just a standard text. And in that text message is a YouTube link with a daily devotional that we record every morning. We record this devotional, upload it to YouTube, and send it out to our church. Now, it's nothing fancy. We do it on a $0 budget, and I know all the pastors out there love that. It's simply me sitting in front of a computer with a PowerPoint slide, recording myself on another platform called Zoom. Now, to the pastors watching this, you are in the Bible every single day. So why not leverage technology to share it with those you lead? If you'd like to see an example of what we do, please feel free to look up our YouTube page, Westchester Church. Like I said, it's nothing fancy, but it's daily word every day in the hands of our church. Another way that we use technology at Westchester Church is simply texting. Now, I was never a big texter, but I took a list of everyone in our church and I broke it down into 5 groups: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I text everyone on their day. It's nothing amazing. Most of the time, everyone gets the same text that goes something like this. I put their name in and then I say, praying for you. Have a great day. Have a beautiful day. Be victorious today. And sometimes I'll add a picture that I downloaded from the Bible app. It may not seem grand, but people love to be connected and people love to be remembered. And sometimes it's the little things that are the big things. Another platform that we use that helps us create a sense of community, I kind of already mentioned it, but it's Zoom. This has become very popular lately. This is where everyone can see each other. It's a 21st century chat room. This has been great for ladies' prayer groups, men's prayer groups, youth group. Something else we've done on Zoom is record interviews. It's what we call a better perspective. I don't know if you've noticed, but I love the word better. In these interviews, we've interviewed doctors and Christian counselors, comedians, even Brother Bernard. The Zoom platform is very user-friendly. If there's a topic that you want your church to know more about, or something that they need to know, and you know of an expert in that field, record the interview. Share it with your people via technology. Leverage technology to make voices heard that make others' lives better. We also have a daughter work in Manhattan. And every Monday night, my wife and I have a Zoom meeting with the daughter work pastor and his wife to discuss strategy and pray together. And we have some wonderful prayer meetings because of technology. So don't just think whole church. Think personal mentorship and personal discipleship. Because of commutes and because of schedules, all in-person meetings every week would be extremely hard. But technology can turn it into a reality. Now, I've talked quite a bit about videos, but images are very important too. So here's my suggestion. Take a lot of pictures of everything. And if you don't, and you do not have to be a Photoshop whiz to put out a good picture. That's just way too stressful. Here's 2 apps that I would like to recommend to you. Number 1 is called Canva, and number 2 is called WordSwag. Those 2 apps can meet all of your picture needs for your social medias. Now, I'd like to shift from talking about platforms to talking about resources. Resources are important. Now, pre-COVID, we were very busy. The idea of coming up with resources for discipleship for our weekly connect groups, which happened all over Westchester County, was a burdensome hassle, if I'm honest. We have 3 kids, we're pastoring a church, and on top of all of the other things life brings, everything was just hectic. And I'm sure that many of you know what I'm talking about. So we began to look for resources. And wow, did we find a gold mine, formerly known as Discipleship Central, but currently discipleshipnow.com. This was an apostolic streaming service. Now, I know what you're doing. You're pulling out your phone and going to discipleshipnow.com, but just hold on to the end of this seminar. But we were able to secure church subscription, and we did multiple things with it. Our connect groups, or small group, the leaders, were able to search the database and find materials that fit their connect group's needs. We were able to give out a subscription to guests at our church. One man told me that on his daily commute, he was listening to Discipleship Central. And what is great about that resource is that you do not have to worry about what comes next in the search, because all of the content is 100% apostolic. Now, on social media, experts say that 90% are lurkers, 9% are editors. They like and they share things. And then 1% are creators. You don't have to be a creator all the time, even though you do need to create. Sometimes it's good just to share things. Maybe a sermon you feel your followers would enjoy that you found on YouTube, or a clip from a song that you think would bless and uplift people. Content creating is great. Sharing is good, but lurking gets you nowhere. We must be proactive. So let's talk strategy. Now, I want you to remember this. You have to go where your audience is. Do not make them come to you. I remember as a youth pastor, it began with MySpace. Yes, MySpace. I just dated myself. Went through Facebook into Instagram. I remember as at the transition between the Facebook and the Instagram phase, I asked one of our youth why no one was liking our stuff on Facebook. They said, Facebook? No one's on Facebook. That is so passé. And my next question was, how do you know what passé means? But we shifted to Instagram. Wherever your audience is where your focus should be. You see, technology is great, but there is a downside, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it. The fact that there are people that don't agree with you, and the more you use technology, the more you are going to open yourself up to criticism. Social media has taken criticism to a new level. It can be immediate, vicious, and quite unfair. When faced with criticism, because it is coming, never go personal and never go defensive. If someone attacks you on social media like the bully in the playground, what they want is a response so that they can hit you again. Keeping your head high is the best way to change perspectives. Truth may work slower on social media, but it always prevails. You can acknowledge critics without responding negatively. Some say, never read the comments, but I couldn't disagree more. Read the comments and respond to the comments, because the people who are trolling you, they are expecting you to ignore them, so don't give them what they expect. What if instead you thank them for your time in posting and offer them a back channel avenue to reach out, like an email address or a comment section on the website, asking them to give you further information? Give them a next step. It shows you're not afraid of criticism, you respect their opinion, and you're not afraid to reach out. Who knows, you may be building a disciple. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with a story showing how technology, when used right, can be a very beautiful thing. This is the year 2020. One of the most unique and downright weird years we've ever had. one of which has incredibly weird situations. One of those situations and stories deals with my dad. Now, my dad, for as long as I can remember, has never owned a smartphone. He has always had a flip phone. Never desired a smartphone, never needed a smartphone, perfectly content with what he had. Well, this is 2020, so it would only make sense that my dad would get an iPhone. The only reason he got the iPhone is because my mom got a brand new phone and he took her old model. Well, Dad figured out how to watch church on this phone. And when the church that my parents attend lifted the quarantine and began to have in-person services again, Dad did what every pastor was worried about. Dad didn't go back to church. He did something else. Instead, he got in his car and he drove to this couple's home. A couple that's in their 90s. A couple that could not leave their home. A couple in quarantine. A couple that never missed church. Dad pulls out his iPhone and he turns on the church service. And the three of them sit huddled around an old iPhone watching church. Because here's what is true. It's not about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have. I'd be remiss if I didn't leave you with a biblical principle. Jesus told the story of the treasure in the field, how a man sees this treasure. He goes and sells everything he has to purchase the field. It never says how much the field cost, but what he had was enough. It doesn't matter what you have. Just know that what you have is enough for the treasure that God has placed in your life and in your church. You may not have all the technological wits, but the wits that you do have is enough. I believe that. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to download the exercise file, and if you have any questions, my email is in there. Please feel free to reach out. Once again, thank you so much. God bless, and enjoy the remainder of General Conference 2020.